Hey everybody, what's going on? My name is PBM. Today we're going to be talking about the Season 4 map, really just the SMITE map in general, not just Season 4. But the purpose of this video is, over really the past year and a half or so, the SMITE map has been a recurring topic of people voicing what they dislike about it and, what needs to be changed and all that stuff. So I'm making this video, so hopefully it'll give some people insight on why people in the competitive scene are complaining about the map. Hopefully it'll help people who are complaining about the map but don't really know what they're talking about, exactly why the map works the way it does. It can also offer, hopefully, insight on how to play the game a little bit better, how to understand the map, and yeah, all that stuff. And I guess also with Season 4, we can talk about why the map in itself is a core problem and why changes that have been attempted to alter the map or how it gets played aren't really going to work because there are limitations around the map itself. So yeah, it all makes sense as we go deeper into it. It's going to be a bit of a rant video because there's a lot to explain, just a lot of how to play the game and why the map is the way it is. But anyways, I just want to preface all of this with, the map isn't shit. Like, when people complain about the map, it's not because HiRez created some horrible map. It's really just that players have gotten a lot better. The map is, like, really old, right? And anytime you have an old map that people gain more experience on, they're going to learn how to abuse it a little bit more. And on top of that, because the game was younger when the map was first created, people have just gotten so much better and learned how to kind of exploit the map and how to abuse it and learn how to play it perfectly. And because we're at that point where the map is, just this version of the map ever since the, I guess, remodel of it, or just, the appearance of it from after Season 1 Worlds. I mean, it's like 3 years old, right? And most of the things on the map currently are the same as they were like 3 years ago. So it really just needs a little bit of shaking up. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So I'll talk about, I guess, the dimensions of the map and how lane pressure works with it, the jungle starts. We'll talk about all that good stuff. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. It's going to be a bit different, and yeah, let's get into it. Alright, so the first thing I want to spend time talking about is the width of the map, and I guess the other dimensions, and just the jungle, the structure of the map, basically. And excuse the squeaky chair, my bad. So, I picked Emir here. He has a 360 base movement speed, so that is one of, if not the slowest in the game. I know a lot of characters have 360. I'm not sure if anybody's at like 355, 350, but whatever, it'll still prove the point just as well. So Ymir, one of the slowest level 1 just base movement speed characters in the game. So we're going to buy Boots 1, which is a normal start, right? You normally can get like Watchers, Boots 1, or maybe you get like Bumbas and whatever in Boots 1, all that stuff. So we're just going to get Boots 1. I'm going to teleport over to Duo just to make this quick for a second. So what we're going to test here is the width of the map. So we pick one of the slowest characters in the game. We don't even have full boots, so this is like level 1. Just imagine that I have a standard start, that I have Watchers and like Meditation, whatever else. Like, the point is just to test the movement speed. So I'm pinning my back to this Duo wall. So this is as far, I'm in the middle of the map, so I'm going to see how long it takes me to get from here to here. So I'm going to pin my back, and at 10 seconds, I'm going to start walking, just so I can keep explaining this as I go. And what we're going to talk about is the time that you have between waves to rotate around this map. So a new wave spawns every 30 seconds. So if a new wave spawns every 30 seconds, you have to clear it and everything like that when it meets the wave. So after you clear it, how much time do you have to rotate? And how much time do you need to get to certain spots on the map? So I'm testing the most unrealistic rotation that you would pretty much never do, ever. Right now we just hit 30 seconds, and at 25 it'll be 35 seconds. So there you go, 35 seconds, and we're in Soul Lane. So 35 seconds to get from my back against the wall to the center of Soul Lane. So let's talk about that for a second. We are 5 seconds off from, with just Boots 1 on the slowest character in the game, or one of them, from making it from one side of the map all the way to the other, potentially without even missing a wave. And something to keep in mind, one, you're never going to stand with your back to the wall and be like, oh, look, it's time to rotate, let me walk all the way to do a lane. Like, when you're positioned in lane, you're more often on this side of the lane away from the far side, unless you're worried about getting ganked, because you have quicker rotations into the jungle. So it's more likely that I'm standing here, I'm clearing a wave, and then I rotate this way. Another factor to keep in mind with those 35 seconds is how you're impacting the other lane. So, let's say you're in comms with your team. If somebody sees you rotate from mid, from example, right? As soon as you're about that point, it's going to be called out like, hey, you know, mid is missing, they're in your side of the jungle, just be careful. When I get like right here, I'm already influencing this wave, right? If I'm a jungler or I'm a support or I'm whoever and I'm rotating, as soon as I'm right here, I'm influencing this laning phase and this one-on-one matchup, because if this solo laner pushes up into my solo laner, then I have an easy gank on them and I can freeze them and do whatever. So already, just by making a rotation to stand here in the jungle, what this usually means, unless somebody has like, unless it's like Osiris versus like one of the shittiest clearing gods in the game, like it's Osiris versus like Kumba or something, you're not going to push up into a 2v1, which means this solo laner is forced to like stand back towards their tower, which means you get lane pressure right here, which means if you get that lane pressure, you get to walk into the jungle. So we'll go over the clear time and how long it takes to clear minions just to give you a better idea of that. But basically, the map being at a point where you can pretty much rotate from lane to lane between waves. Keep in mind, I went from duo to solo. It's more often that you go from mid to solo, and what that means is, let's say the mid wave meets at 30 seconds, so if it takes, every wave spawns 30 seconds between, mid wave meets at 30 seconds, so 30-second walk between here and here. What that would mean is, say you take 5 seconds to clear with your mid laner, you clear the wave, you now have 20 seconds to walk here, clear this, and walk back, or like 25 seconds before the next wave meets, right? So it takes me like 7 seconds to walk from mid over to speed, not even, and then I have to clear it, and then I walk back. So you have plenty of time to go from wave to camp, to wave to camp, to wave to camp, to wave to camp, back and forth, and if you just keep mid pressure, and you play it correctly, you can get a ton of farm. So that's one of the core issues with the map, is just the actual size and how easy it is to rotate from lane to lane. We'll go over that a little bit later. So another thing about the map I want to talk about and the dimensions is the actual paths in the jungle. So right here, I can see into solo lane, right? If I'm a Mercury, I could ult this. I can see all the way into solo lane. I could see if people are pushed up, I could see who's there. You do have a little bit of view distance here, stuff like that. But this still isn't good, because if somebody were to place a ward, like right here, I'll ping on the map where I mean as well. If someone were to place a ward right here, you can see the animation of that ward being placed. If someone places a raw heal here, or a raw one, or something like that, you can see the animations there. If somebody is clearing the elemental camp, you get to see them. You get to see all of this stuff. There's no fog of ward. Like, the jungle doesn't actually feel like a jungle. Like, this could be, if I show you just this picture and I take away this map, somebody could think this is a fucking lane. Like, look how wide look how wide this is, look how long it goes. That's pretty ridiculous compared to most jungles, that it doesn't actually feel like a jungle. Another sightline that was opened up, so I'm gonna go over here before I show it. So one of the issues on the old map that they actually addressed for Season 4 is if you stood right here, you would be able to see the red camp right here, and likewise, if you were standing over here, you'd be able to see the speed camp. So something in patch notes that they said they did was just make the wall wider. They didn't actually make the wall wider. What they did was rotate this camp. So this wall right here, this little column, used to be right here. And what that did is it made this path much more narrow. It also stopped you from being able to do this, which is, if I stand all the way over here at these back harpies, I can literally see to their red wall right here. I can see all the way down this to a red wall. I've tested this with multiple people. I noticed this at the start of Season 4 PTS, and I mentioned it to some of the developers and people. I tested this with Quintosh, and we went into a 1v1 game like this, and we just tried to see what you could see, and from our experience, you can see people activate relics like thorns. Hold on, where are they? Let me look at everything. So you can see people activate thorns, you can see people sunder, you can see people place like raw heal, you can see them ward from here, you can see them do pretty much anything. You can see the shell effect. You can see, I think you can see Aegis, but some of these depend on like your graphic settings and how clear everything is. And you can see the hog animation. You can see a ton of stuff from all the way over here if you're really paying attention. And the argument and the point of this isn't so much that, you know, that's really OP, you get to see everything. It's more that just, like, why is this a thing? Like, why can I see from back harpies? Like, I literally just got out of my base. Like, I backed, and I'm here doing a camp, and I can see all the way down to their red wall. Like, in my opinion, that just shouldn't be a thing. The jungle just doesn't feel like a jungle enough. It doesn't feel punishing. On the note of how easy it is to rotate, another issue with how easy it is to rotate is there's really no threat of being collapsed on. There's no threat of being in danger because there are so many free paths out of this jungle. So if I stand right here at like this rock right here, it's so easy for me to get out of a situation where like a mid laner and a jungler are rotating here, because I can go down this path, I can go back to duo lane, I can go to the Gold Fury path. Like, there's so many easy exits out of every single path in the jungle. The most risky path in the entire jungle is like right here, because you only have 3 ways to go, and 3 ways is still like, I don't know, it's still not that bad. There's really no narrow corridors. The most narrow corridor, I guess, other than this right here, would be at the mid-harpy camp, but again, like, I can stand from here and see people rotating in so easily. Like, it's really hard to get caught here. Like, if somebody turns this corner and Murkots you, then, like, yeah, of course you can get caught. But overall, I think that the paths in the jungle need to be narrowed, and they need to be closed, and I think there should be more, I guess, winding paths. There shouldn't be clear sight lines. Like, I shouldn't be able to see into duo lane right here. I shouldn't be able to see all the way to the speed wall. I shouldn't be able to see all the way to their tier 2 tower. Like, it just feels like the jungle isn't actually a jungle, in my opinion. It is. There are things that are really nice about this jungle, don't get me wrong. Like, for example, if you're playing Mercury, like, this is sick that you can get all of these sick plays. Like, you have so many opportunities to make good plays, but that's only one god in the game, right? Like, that's only one god that gets to do that. It also, by having the jungle like this, it really makes movement abilities, I guess I shouldn't say more OP, because movement abilities are always good. Like, if there were narrow corridors, I guess movement abilities would be just as good. But, like, gods with dashes specifically, not jumps, because jumps will always be good. If you have a dash, it's so much harder to get punished in this type of jungle, because you just have so many clear lines to, like, dash through and everything. Like, say there were more corridors and there were less times where you could just, like, dash for free and, like, not get caught around a corner, stuff like that. I don't really know how to explain this. It's just, like, too hard theoretically. But anyways, you guys get the point. Like, the jungle just isn't really, it doesn't really feel threatening. It just feels like more farm that you get to go get for free. Like, it doesn't feel like you're risking anything by invading, because you just have so much room to operate, I guess is what I'm saying. I think that's about it for what I wanted to talk about the map dimensions. I mean, you could talk about, like, time out of base and everything like that. That doesn't really matter. I guess something we could talk about is, another potential thing about junglers is, you see this with games like League. I don't think you want to make the game entirely like League, but I think this point is good, is that it kind of sucks that junglers don't have a path right into the jungle. So in League, for example, you have a path, like, right from here, and you go straight into the jungle, and you can, like, farm back harpies and, you know, all that other crap. Because in Smite, you have to go, you can go straight from there, but normally you're just going to go to a lane, and then you go around to the jungle camps. Because all of these pathings, like, all these lanes and all these corridors, they're so predictable, the jungler doesn't really get to be a threat, like, in secret. Like, you never really have to guess where the jungler is. It's always really, really obvious, because they're always seen on the map somehow. Like, they're always, like, going to a lane to split or something like that. So you're not really at threat of ganks as much, and because you can see so far into the jungle, you're really not at threat of ganks. So one of the ways to make junglers more independent, which is a pretty universal concern, is just change how the map is. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this clip. Okay, now we're going to talk about how the waves meet, and we're going to talk about lane pressure. And lane pressure is a really, really core idea to Smite currently, and on this map especially. Understanding how lane pressure works and how to abuse it is so important. So what I want to do is pick a god that's really good at clearing level 1. Anubis or Osiris or like a Wheelix, something like that. Let's go with... I think I want to do wave clear, so let's do Anubis. Anubis has, I think it's 120 damage on his 1. Wait, I'm on his passive. What the hell? 35 times 6. Oh, okay, it's way more than that. Okay, Anubis has a fuck ton of damage on his 1. So, that's probably the best level 1 clearing ability that you're going to get. What we're going to pay attention to here is I am going to build like Vamp Shroud, Bancroft. So we're just going to get a lot of power at level 1. I could get Soulstone to make it a little bit more apparent, but I actually don't want to auto-attack the wave for what I want to show. And we're just going to get some mana pots, beads, whatever. Pretty standard start. We'll get my 1 because that's the best ability to clear. So, oh my god, it reset my HUD. I didn't even notice. So what we are going to do is I want to pay attention to when you can actually hit the minions as they're pathing down the lane. So what I mean by that, when can a ranged auto attacker or anybody, when can you auto attack the wave if you're ranged? When can you throw an ability out of it? Like, when is it actually hittable? So right here, if I stand as far up on that tower line as I can, I need the wave to be like right here. Like, I need the wave to be somewhere around there for me to actually be able to auto attack it. So I want to pay attention to, the spot is like right here, and right here on the map. So we want to pay attention to when each wave reaches that, because that dictates how early your lane can start clearing. And the main point that I'm going to pause the game at is when do the waves meet dead center in mid lane, and we're going to pause the game right there. So we're going to let the waves push out and just sit here and just go ahead and throw our beads out because we're bored. Alright, so the wave got to that point at about 23 seconds, like 22, 23 seconds, where I could actually hit it, and now the waves have met. So, at 28 seconds, the wave meets the middle lane, and the minions are hitting each other. I'm going to unpause this. I want to see, as soon as I see the red minion wave, so the Chaos Side minion wave, as soon as I see that meet in Soul Lane, I'm going to unpause, or I'm going to pause again. And we're going to see the time difference. So it was 28 seconds in mid, and it is now going to be, the jungle spawns, it's like 33 seconds. So you have a 5-second advantage of when the wave meets in mid lane compared to when the wave meets in Soul Lane and Duo Lane, just because of how much quicker it is to navigate down mid lane. So 5-second advantage. We're just going to clear this up really quick. As I mentioned, Anubis is like insane for this. So now let's see how long it takes to get from here to there. So I cleared that wave. We're actually going to do that again because I didn't clear it as quick as I could have. So imagine this is like the first wave or whatever. So I start hitting the wave at 53 seconds. We're just going to let it push a little bit. Keep in mind I'm only one person compared to the normal 2. So I had 53 seconds. I'm not going to use that ability yet. So it took me about 12 seconds to clear that wave by myself. That's a pretty long amount of time. But I have 28 seconds before the next wave gets there. So, or not 20, or 28, holy fuck, 18, math is hard. So I have more time to rotate after I clear that wave than I did to actually clear the wave because of how low the minion HP is and everything like that. So, I could keep talking about this, but I'm actually going to go into Paint, I think, to kind of explain what all of this means and explain why the lane pressure is so important and why the clear timers are the way they are, all that stuff. So let's go ahead and F6 this and head into Paint. Okay, now we're in Paint, and now that we've gotten like all the facts from the map and the dimensions, I'm going to explain what all this means, even though I know it's been a long video so far. I told you guys it would be a rant. Anyways, so mid lane meets 28 seconds. I am awful with using my mouse to write, by the way, so excuse that. Every other lane meets at 33 seconds. So you have a 5-second gap. That is supposed to be a 5, believe it or not. Hold on, let's do this better. Hold on. That's a 5. We nailed it, and that's an S. There we go. 5 seconds difference between mid lane and every other lane. So something you guys will notice if you've been paying attention to basically Smite, if you've been around for a long time, something that is very common ever since Season 2, there's always been 2 people, at least 2 people, normally 3 people in mid lane at all times in competitive games. And I want to explain the reasoning for that. So, the first reason is this 5 seconds right here. This 5 seconds means if you clear a wave in mid lane, say everybody clears their wave in, let's say 2 people in every lane have the ability to clear the full wave in 8 seconds, which is actually pretty slow in a lot of cases. So let's say you clear in 8 seconds at every wave. That means in solo lane, you're done at 41 seconds, and in duo lane, you're done at 41 seconds. Whereas in mid, you're done in 36 seconds. So that sounds pretty pointless for me to even talk about the same 5 second gap. The point of that is if your clear is equal in every lane, mid lane just wins the rotation. So let's say you have a Sylvanas, right? One of the best level 1 pressure gods in the game. He routinely gets banned in Season 4 or first pick because of that pressure. So let's talk about Sylvanas and how you're using him. So if let's just say he has the best level 1, there are obviously like ways to counter level 1s and like counter picks in lane, that type of stuff. But Sylvanas has some of the best clear at level 1. So let's say, why do we put him in mid over putting him in duo? Let's say wherever Sylvanas goes, he gets wave pressure. Well, you'd rather have the wave pressure in mid because that means you get to start rotating and doing stuff 5 seconds earlier than you would if you were in duo. And also, just look at the map fundamentally. So if you get mid pressure, you can control mid harpies. You can control all the back harpies, all this shit. I'm going to try to not do this too sloppy. But anyways, you get to control all those. So you get to control all 6 harpy camps because you're not going to have time. I mean, you probably do have time, but it's normally not worth rotating from like duo or solo lane to back harpies. And mid harpies are normally gone by that point in time. So it's not really worth rotating to those. So mid lane gets control over all those. They also get immediate control over the speeds and the reds. So that's 4 extra buffs they have control over. And they have a very easy rotation to elementals and oracles. For the sake of this, we're going to ignore the elementals and the oracles. The reason for that is oracles are normally so tanky that you don't end up doing, like, you don't get level 1 pressure and then go do oracles. You'll never do that because they're so tanky. They take so long to do. It's better to do another camp. And more often than not, you see these camps being taken by people who are grouped up as like 3 people. So maybe you see the 2 people in mid lane plus the solo lane come do these elementals like 3 ways or just try to get pressure around the map. That's more the case for oracles, but anyways, multiple people have influence over that, so we're going to ignore the oracles for a second. Or the oracles and elementals, we're not going to talk about them, so that's even. So, the side lanes control 2 buffs each, mid lane controls 4 buffs, and they control all their harpies, and they have equal control. So, there are more camps on this map centralized around mid lane. The rotations from mid lane are also better than from duo lane, and the reason for that is when you're getting pressure in a wave and you're farming the jungle, you want to stay as close to the wave meeting line as you can. So, rotating from here is a much shorter rotation than going all the way to purple, right? You have to walk way further, and it takes you longer to do purple because of how far you have to walk. So mid not only gets to clear earlier because the wave meets quicker, they clear earlier, their camps are closer, and they have more camps to control. So mid pressure by itself is just like the king of every lane, and it's just OP, and that's why you never see a mid laner start alone. This is also why if you have the option to get pressure in any lane, say you have the best like level 1 like two person lane in the game, like say your 2 characters clear better than any other 2 characters in the game, you're pretty much always going to put those characters in mid because that's how you can exploit it the best. Mid lane, because of this extra 5 seconds, also has the option of being able to deny other lanes pressure. So, for example, let's say on this map specifically in Season 4, let's say we have let's say you actually do start your mid laner alone. So let's say there's 2 people in duo and on each team, and let's say you have a 1-on-2 in mid and you have a 2-on-1 in solo. So the difference here, jungler starts mid on order side, but on chaos side the jungler starts in solo. So what's this mean? If you are in solo, this jungler and solo lane wants to go invade this blue. That's what that's telling you. They want pressure here to invade this blue. Well, if you're in mid, if this... We'll ignore duo. We'll just say that's a stalemate. So ignore duo. If you're in mid, you could just go to speed and trade out this side of the map, right? Take their speed and their blue. They'll take your blue and your speed. But because this mid laner is alone and they can't do anything, what you actually get to do is they have to clear under tower. So you get a free rotation without this mid laner being able to do camps by themselves. So you can actually just go do your speed. If you go do your speed, you're at the speed at least 5 seconds earlier than blue. The reason I say at least 5 seconds is because of when the waves meet, and also the amount of time it takes to path here. You're just at the speed way quicker than they can be at blue. So what this normally means is this 2v1 in solo normally doesn't go for this invade. Even though they got wave pressure, normally what you want to do if you ever get a 2v1 is invade and take everything from them. But because mid lane gets to clear so much quicker, just by going to their side of the jungle and doing their own camps, you're not able to invade at all, because they'll hit level 2, they'll clear this buff, and they can kill you, or they can just contest you and fight you here. And if they choose to stalemate, then after this solo laner clears the wave, it's so much quicker for this solo laner to come here and make it a 3v2 before this mid laner can clear and walk all the way over here. And they also have to risk getting cut off by the 2 people in mid that could potentially kill them. So, because mid lane just has so much more time to rotate, they influence the map so much more. I guess the other thing to cover while we're in paint and while we're kind of ranting is people who say that if they just adjust the jungle timers, like when they spawn or how waves spawn, stuff like that. We'll talk about the jungle spawn, because that's the only thing that could immediately be adjusted by HiRez in the middle of the season. That won't change anything. It'll actually change nothing. If they make the jungle camp spawn at 25 seconds, so if the jungle camp spawn at 25 seconds, you only have a 3-second buffer between when the mid wave spawns and when the jungle camp spawns. So, excuse me, I gotta drink some water. If you choose to have the jungle work like this, the only reason to change this, by the way, would be for the jungler to start alone. But that will never happen, because in Smite, if you two-way split something, so let's say you solo something, you solo a camp. Let's say this camp is worth 100 experience. We're not going to go over the actual values to complicate it, but let's say back harpies are worth 100 experience. If you if you clear this by yourself, you get 100 experience. So you get 100% of the total experience, right? If you two-way split this, it actually works out that you get like 133% of the total experience. You actually get more experience from the camp by two-way splitting it than you would by soloing it, because it'll give each person 66%. I'm pretty sure that's with experience as well, but I know for a fact that that's how it works with the gold, which is why you always want to be splitting jungle camps with your jungler, especially if they have Bumbas, which obviously they will. So, in the game of Smite, the way the farming mechanics work alone, it incentivizes you to always be splitting. So what does that mean? It means that your goal on the map and in the game is to group as quickly as you can and clear as many camps as you can as fast as you can. That's the whole goal on this map. That is why you try to get pressure. That is why teams draft pressure. That's why people emphasize jungle clear. That is why Hog keeps coming back every fucking season, is because it's the best at clearing, and it's the best to clear the entire jungle really quick. If you control more camps and you clear camps quicker, you're just going to get ahead over time, and that's what you call snowballing, because then all you have to do is build a gradual lead, and then you can win a fight with your experience advantage or your gold advantage, or you take an objective with it, or you take an objective with fucking Hog because it's still in the game. I'm just kidding. Hog is not really that good right now, but you get the point. The point is, if you do everything quicker than the other team, you're just going to fucking win because you get more experience from grouping. So what this means is that because it's so easy to rotate on the map, because it's so small, because it's so I guess skinny in terms of the dimensions, like if the lanes were out here, you wouldn't be grouping as much, right? Like if it went all the way out there, because you couldn't walk to buffs as quickly. So because the map is just the way it is, it incentivizes people to group extremely early, and it incentivizes early brawling, which means you're just going to draft for the level 1, and you're just going to snowball. And there's really, like, there's nothing that they can do on this map with the way the dimensions are and the way the paths are to fix that. So The only way to fix that is really a new map. That's my opinion on it, and I think a lot of other people feel the same way. A jungler will never, ever, 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 ever start alone on this map for one, unless you're using like Hog, which is a whole nother discussion, or reliably start alone, I should say, without getting invaded, without getting forced off the buff. Like, say this jungler, instead of being in soul lane, say this jungler, like this is a 1-on-1, say the jungler starts at speed. This mid laner, if you only have 3 extra seconds, like this is if they changed it to let the jungler start alone, you have 3 extra seconds before this wave clears. They're going to clear faster than you. So do 2 people clear faster than 1 person by 3 seconds? My guess is yes. So they're going to clear it. They can come to the speed. Even if you get the speed, you could get poked out, killed. They have a chance to steal the speed. Even if you get all of that, even if you secure the camp, you cannot run into them. You have to start running away, which means you're either going to do back harpies or you're running to blue. If this soul laner wins this 1-on-1 and they start running to blue, you can't run to blue, so now you got to go to your tier 2 or you got to go to back harpies. You get zoned from an entire wave. So even though you got a camp, the difference is this jungler got a wave and he's also going to get whatever other camp is here. So you're going to get the same number of camps, but you're going to lose an entire wave. And your team's going to be behind in experience for it. Like, there's never a scenario where you're going to get to start alone on this map. And I think that's just how it's going to be, as long as this map is a thing. I should probably mention that I'm pretty sure HiRez has said that they are looking to change the map for Season 5. But the point of this video, like I said at the start, wasn't to shit on HiRez. It was to talk about why the map gets played like it does. And hopefully you guys learned something from it. I tried to keep it short, but I mean, it's a rant video and it's going pretty in-depth, so hopefully you guys explained it. That's going to be it from me. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube and my Twitch and all that shit. And that's it. Follow me on Twitter. Peace out, people.